Welcome to a very special episode of our journey together. Join us as we take a moment to look back on where we started and the divine paths that have led us here. From the seed of an idea to the thriving community we've built together, our podcast has been a testament to passion, friendship, and a little bit of divine intervention. Today, as we stand on the brink of exciting new ventures and on the eve of Valentine's Day, we delve into a topic close to our hearts, the true essence of Eros, through the lens of C.S. Lewis. Join us as we unravel the misconceptions around romantic love and celebrate the deeper, sacrificial nature of Eros. So grab your favorite cup of tea and let's reminisce, reflect, and rediscover the power of love. Hey, welcome to the Route 77 podcast. I am your host, Natasha, and I am here with Monique.
Hello.
And David. And this is a very special episode. It is our 1-year anniversary.
Hello.
Can you believe it? We've made it to a year.
We made it to a year. We kept going with the podcast every single week.
And we had topics.
Yes. We had topics for them all. God's been good.
Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy to think it's been a year because, like I said just previously to recording, I said we started with this germ of an idea to, yeah, there should be something like this, to maybe we're called to do this, to actually doing it.
I still remember the day when the idea of the podcast came to us. That was when Apologetics Canada was having
Their launch day.
Their launch day.
Yeah.
And I had shown up and you were late. So you were sitting behind me. And all of a sudden it just like, we should do a podcast. And I turned and I looked and found you and we both pointed at each other. Podcast.
Yeah, we both like at the middle of this thing, apart, only eye contact. And it was like, we need to do a podcast. And it's God just was like, boop, here's an idea in both of your brains. And David's just, okay, we're doing a podcast.
He just comes along for the ride.
Yes, but it's a very good part of the ride. Definitely need his perspective.
We get that frequently though.
Yep.
Where our brains are on the same wavelength. God gives us the same message and we're just, you too? What?
Wait, what? Even today, I made some comment randomly out of the blue that most people would be like, there's absolutely no context whatsoever. And you just picked up the conversation exactly with knowing what I was talking about.
Yep.
It was weird. Most people complain because I have random thoughts. I'll be thinking lots of things in my brain and then just blurt something out after a while. And I've made a bunch of connections from one topic to another. And then it would make no sense to anybody.
Sometimes you do that to me too, and I'm going,
I don't context.
Okay, I need context.
What's easier words? Because I used to frustrate my ex because he'd be like, just let me know because I have no idea where your brain got that from.
Well, it doesn't frustrate me, but it does make me laugh. Okay, random word. What are you talking about now? But today I knew exactly what you're talking about and was right there with you.
Yeah,
exactly.
I guess we can make a little reference to what we're hoping the next year will include. We don't have any specifics yet. Definitely include, I'm trying to finalize the website, get it up and running, and then within February. I'm really hoping to have a singles kind of conference or even just a singles night where I speak at our church, basically discussing the 5 pillars, because I think those are like 5 important things that we talk about with singleness. I'm hoping to have that and maybe, I don't know, start with our celebrating singles night at our church. That's my thoughts for the next year. Try to get those in and at least get one night of speaking in so I can see how it looks out. And then hopefully maybe contact other churches and just let them know that we're available. And
we could have it as a dessert night.
It can just be called Celebrating Singles because I don't want people coming in thinking it's
a meet and greet.
Yeah, it's like all about getting you married off.
I mean, if it happens, we're not
against it. We just don't believe that's the point of it.
No, that's not the goal.
So that's our hope for this next year, developing this a little bit farther beyond. And we're also hoping to take this podcast onto YouTube. That's been the most requested thing. Like, oh, are you on YouTube? And you're like, oh, no, we're not. But that seems to be the most, like, if we want to get the younger demographic, that seems to be where they're going.
Within the next couple of months.
Yeah. Try to get things set up so we can.
We just have to find David his appropriate avatar. So what's your favorite character, David?
Should we make you a cow?
What? No, I don't.
Oh.
I don't. I was half expecting us to meet somewhere and then do a live stream, but
Yeah. And it's just, it seems to be
that's
where
kind of what I
the younger
have
generation
when it
is
comes to
going
YouTube.
to for anything that they want to see. They want to see it. It's weird because I'd rather listen. Like or if I'm on Facebook or something, I actually won't have my volume up very often. If it doesn't have subtitles for me to read while I'm doing it, then I won't stop. So definitely probably add those in. I just have random, I either watch it or I listen to it. I don't do both.
David, for live stream, we'll want our listeners in order to make that, because we'll want to have, I think,
Interaction.
Yeah. A question and answer kind of thing. And
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not something
Mhm.
we don't record. When we do the live streaming, it doesn't matter how many viewers we have because it's still recorded.
No.
And it's
When we
YouTube,
do something
so that
live,
people
I
can
think
go
we
back and
want,
watch it.
when you see Facebook Live, for example, there's lots of people commenting as it's going on and then people responding to the comments. I think that'd be an interesting one to have eventually.
Yep.
Once we're better known.
mind you, if we go live on Facebook, we have all our friends and stuff.
Like, come listen to us.
Come listen to us. Share us with your friends.
Lots of possibilities. I did sign up for TikTok, which I swore I would never do, but I did it because I feel like that's where the younger generations are going for their entertainment and information. I need to know what they're being taught about singles and what they're being affected by. Yeah, so that's the thing. I wasn't my plan to do TikTok, and there's been a lot of warnings against getting on the kind of like the
TikTok train?
Yeah, it's more like it just spirals downward really fast, apparently. But like I said, if that's where people are going, and
How
we
would
need
it
to
spark?
know.
Like, did they
It's
explain?
just like the algorithms can take you to very dark places quickly.
Oh, I see.
And so are very like raw and just not the best uplifting stuff from what I hear. I've only perused it a little bit, so I don't think the algorithms have caught up with me yet, so they're not sure what to show me.
So probably like negative commenters, like what happened with that one lady who described her day in a single life and everybody just
Ran on it. But then there's ones where you get the crazy views, like the really hard right or the really hard left. And it can be crazy. And so people can get sucked into that as
It's a matter of knowing when you get those troll comments to know that they
know
that
what they
those
are.
aren't.
Yeah. So anyways, this is the future plans for this next year. Look for us to spread out beyond the podcast, beyond audio. You'll get to see us in all of our glory.
And we will advise you beforehand.
It's the way to go. That's our next year in a nutshell. As things come along with more like hard dates, then we'll let you know as listeners, we'll let you listeners know. And hopefully then definitely trying to get the website up and running by this month. I've got things on the go. Just need to get all the content ready. We already have our domain names.
Yep. And that's where you'll find a lot of my blog posts.
Yeah. So we're going to set all that up. This being our 1 year anniversary, it means that Valentine's Day is
Around the corner.
the day after this podcast is released. That will be when Valentine's Day is.
Right.
Because we released on the 14th, which was Tuesday last year. It'll be a Wednesday this year. So
I thought it was on Wednesday.
that's what I said. It's on a Wednesday. It was Tuesday last year when we released.
Right.
It'll be Wednesday this year.
For some reason, I thought we were,
You can see how much we keep track of Valentine's Day.
because I was thinking, no, I have no idea what day it is. Today, tomorrow, this day, that day, every day.
Yeah.
This day.
So as Valentine's Day will be tomorrow when we release this, it's interesting. It was not planned by me. It was planned by God, I think, that we were doing the 4 loves. And the love that happens to fall on this day is Eros, which is your romantic love.
Isn't that funny?
It was definitely not my plan. I did not plan this out in advance. It just happened. So that's definitely a God thing there.
Because nothing just happens in
Nothing
God's
just
world.
happens. No. And
he's sitting there up there going, yeah,
don't worry. I got you covered.
I know exactly what you guys are going to talk about. Hopefully we can do it some justice.
Yes. Eros is definitely one of the most misunderstood of the 4 loves, I think.
Yeah. It's where we get our word erotic from. So a lot of people assume that's what it's all about.
So according to Lewis, he starts his chapter by saying, by Eros, of course, that state which we call being in love, or if you prefer, that kind of love which lovers are in. And I think that's the truth of it. It's that, or at least people assume that's what it is. But if you had to give a definition, you'd be like, "What's the people who are in love? They're in love."
But you have to also qualify it that it's not being in lust.
No,
Because a lot
And
of
that's-
people mistake love and lust for the same.
exactly. Lewis emphasizes the difference between Eros and sexual passion. That is such a small part of Eros that, but it often gets misconstrued. That's what it's about. If I feel sexual passion for this person, then I must feel Eros love for them. And
Isn't where that person is more of the object and not the actual person? You just get this feeling. And once that feeling is being taken care of, then that person no longer matters.
yeah, he says that sexuality may operate without Eros or as part of Eros. We tend to, if you said like a man was on the prowl, then it's
Heard that word.
yeah, and that he would be looking for a woman, when in actuality he's looking for the sexual encounter.
He's not.
And it just happens to be that a woman is a part of that. And that you would see their true feelings about that woman after he got his needs met. You discard it or continue on with it.
Yeah.
And I think it can work the other way with women too.
Yes. When I was 16, I was not a Christian at that time. Just so you know that too. So what I'm going to share will just
Context.
Yes, it's context. I had a boyfriend. My best friend was dating his brother. And we were just like always having this, we're dating the brothers, we're going to get married, we're going to be sisters-in-law and all that happy kind of stuff. I had never been with a guy. And he was my first boyfriend. And he wanted to sleep with me. And I was just like, no, I'm not at that stage in the relationship. He put on the pouty face, oh, I might as well just take you home then. In my low self-esteem person, but I guess you could say, I was just like, oh no, now he's going to break up with me. I better give in. So I did. Ask me how long the relationship lasted after that. He never called me again.
You got ghosted.
I got ghosted. Yep. And then Michelle's relationship fell apart not long after that too, because it made a lot of tension. And I think along with a lot of other things, but she's now happily married to a very wonderful man. So I'm very happy for her.
Nice. But that happens often, I think, with young people.
Yeah.
Especially if it's twofold now, I think. There is a sense that a woman can get pressured into it by the man. Again, it probably isn't 100% that way. It could go the other way, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not just cooking in generalizations right now. But I think society is pressuring them too and saying, like, it's just a biological function. What are you waiting for? And so they're being told that their
Just
desire
do
to
it.
wait or not want to do it even is like ridiculous. It's not just the pressure from the one person, it's the pressure from society.
Yeah. And media, the film industry is not healthy.
No, and even like the porn industry has never helped. But the fact that it's becoming more acceptable that, especially the guys, again, so it's largely guys in this perspective, but not only, can still partake in that even while you're in a relationship, that this is acceptable. And if you go along with it, then it's even commended that you're like being open. It's just pornography. Like, how many times is that referenced? I think about it, like, how many times do we see a movie where like the teenage boy is doing something not pornography related, their parent comes in, and by hiding it, they say they're watching pornography.
Yeah.
And then that's supposed to be funny and expected.
Boys will be boys.
Yeah. And it's not just, it's preferable that their parents think they have pornography than, even if what they're doing is not wrong, it's not evil, but it's also considered for the viewer funny.
How many shows have you ever watched where, the man goes to the bathroom and he's got his Playboy with him because he's going to be on the John for a little while?
Yeah.
Like, how is this
helpful? And even I'll say, like, when my ex and I were looking at fertility stuff and we went in for testing him, that stuff was all available in the room.
Because it's supposed to help you.
Yeah, because they need you to do stuff. And so there's like magazines, there's all sorts of videos that you can watch. You can choose not to, obviously, but how many people are going to choose that? So we've created a world where we think
acceptable.
Eros is sexual, not even sex. It's almost like arousal.
Yeah.
Sexual arousal so that you can do whatever you want with yourself or
With some random stranger.
yeah, whatever. There's no connection whatsoever. It's
Yeah.
just about the action and getting satisfied. And as long as you're all good, then
Self-gratification.
self-gratification. And I think that was one of the characters in Doctor Who, and they had Captain Jack. And one of the things he said at the end of one scene was like, the pleasure's all mine. And in the end, that's all that matters.
Wow.
And I always found it interesting that he said that because his whole character was all innuendo. But the fact that he actually stated the quiet part out loud, essentially.
Yeah.
That it really is about self-gratification.
And once you take that step, it's easy to take the next step. Before you know it, you're just submerged heavily into the whole
Culture.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you consider sex as being part of love, it can be so wrong in so many ways, but it's confused as true love.
Yep.
And it's interesting because Lewis talks about this and he says it's not about that, it's about the person. And he talks about, very often what comes first is simply a delightful preoccupation with the beloved, a general unspecified preoccupation with her in her totality. A man in this state really hasn't the leisure to think of sex. He is too busy thinking of a person. The fact that she is a woman is far less important than the fact that she is herself. He is full of desire, but the desire may not be sexually toned. If you asked him what he wanted, the true reply would be to go on thinking of her. So it's like it's not even, sex isn't even what he's like on the table.
No.
And yeah, if you're a young person and a guy especially, you might be having hormones as your adolescence and those things are definitely on your mind. And I'm not denying that that's a possibility. But when you actually come across true Eros, that is so besides the point that it does not matter. And if you can't think of the person beyond that, then that's being disrespectful to them. And it's disrespectful to you and to God. And again, it can be part of a very good Eros relationship in the right circumstance. But it is more often than not, it is like just completely misunderstood and it's given way too much weight. That's what it is. The sexual side of things of romantic love is given way too much weight.
Yes.
You look at any romantic comedy, romantic drama, anything, and it's all about that side of things.
And there's so much that encompasses that feeling of being in love with somebody where that person's good is what you want. Even if that person doesn't have the same feelings for you, you want them to be happy. That's what's important to you. Hopefully that person likes you the same.
Yeah.
But it doesn't always happen. And it's not a possession. It's not a jealous. It's always wanting the best.
Yeah. It's about the best of the other person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lewis's notion that true Eros doesn't seek to possess what it loves necessarily. Instead, it appreciates and adores. I will see a person and I would just think that person is just beautiful. Whether it's male or female matters not.
Yeah.
Because it's got nothing to do with anything other than, wow, that is a beautiful person. Okay, so the dog wanted in. Now it's raining really hard out there. Did you get kicked out of downstairs? I heard the door.
Yeah. Eros thus wonderfully transforms what is par excellence, a need pleasure, into the most appreciative of all pleasures. It is the nature of a need pleasure to show us the object solely in relation to our need, even our momentary need. But in Eros, a need, at its most intense, sees the object most intensely as a thing admirable in herself, important far beyond her relation to the lover's need. That puts it so different than what we see in movies, because it is so one-sided. in the sense, not just men, but in women. In one-sided meaning, you go in there for your benefit. And
I see it's almost like the shift is becoming more and more heavily with women objectifying men. On like Korean fan pages, every now and then it's just all they have is scads of pictures of these guys without their shirt on. It's just like, why am I looking at this?
like scroll. Because then you can indulge in your own fantasies with these people.
Yeah, they're too young for me.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, you don't have to. In the general sense, not just you. Sorry, definitely it is you in the general sense.
People,
These young women can indulge in their own fantasies based on the pictures in the ways they want them to.
Yeah.
Like, it's not unimaginable that with AI and lifelike dolls, and like we talked about in some other podcasts, that we could end up with people making dolls that look like your
What we want.
favorite people from these dramas.
which is very frightening.
Because if it's a need love and it's all about my need, what does it matter what the other person is?
And there's always somebody out there with the technological know-how that will,
And ethics and regulations are usually years behind
that kind of
technology because it develops so quickly. And just because 90% of the companies won't do it, there'll be 10% of the companies that will do it in some countries where they can get away with it.
Yeah.
And it'll get smuggled in, and then eventually, if we put it on TV enough,
it
and
becomes
create
acceptable.
it becomes acceptable. And this is where we talk about the LGBTQ and all these things, because they have the saying, love is love.
Yep.
It doesn't matter who you love, as long as you have love. And they're referring to the Eros type of love, that they consider it that. But I think ultimately, again, I'm not going to draw across the board. There's a lot of self-gratification.
Yep.
You getting what you want from who you want it from.
Yep.
And it has more to do with what you get out of it and that you get your way than it has to do with the benefit to everyone involved.
Yep.
Because there are people who actually are out there in public, like not in the dark alley or the dark web or whatever, actually trying to promote pedophilia as a normal lifestyle choice. So they actually call it minor attracted person.
Oh,
And they're talking about it. They have conferences. They go in front of Congress. Like, I'm talking about, like, we're not just hiding out on a corner. I'm just like, they're just saying,
they're not in their dark room with the computer.
it's happening in broad
Catching
daylight,
children off the
and
street.
they're trying to get it legalized and socially acceptable because love is love. They're going to use that catchphrase too. And don't be surprised if LGBTQ2 plus includes whatever P. Sure, they'll probably call it M or minor attracted person because they want to get away from that P word. But it is pedophilia.
MAP.
MAP.
M-A-P.
Yeah, I think they call themselves that. Anyhow, but that's like when we start to say what I want more important than
What is good for the other
or
person.
their society even.
Yeah.
They're trying to get it normalized is the word, because if you can get it normalized, you can get it legalized.
And that's what's happened with so many other things in society, where it starts with, let's get everybody comfortable enough, and now let's make it a law.
Because they're just in love.
Yeah,
It's their
it's
personal
just
rights.
They have no right to tell other people what they can and cannot do. Laws are there to protect people. But if you start abolishing laws because it fringes on someone's right, there's going to be so many other things that are going, this is my right. I have the right to do this. I have the right to murder this person because they offended me.
That's how they're doing with the transgenderism. They're saying, I have the right to my own body and make my own decisions regardless of how old I am.
There's not enough science.
The thing is, it's not even that. It's if you
10%.
got to protect children and you're not protecting them by letting them make life-altering decisions. But that's a whole other podcast.
Yes. No, let's not.
So we're just talking through.
We love you enough to want to protect you from making some sort of irreversible error that you will have regret for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
We're coming from a place of many years of wisdom.
But it's the same reason that we would come to a 15-year-old and tell them that they can't have a 29-year-old boyfriend.
No.
But they do. And they say, hey, why does it matter? It's
Yep.
my choice, my body, my choice. And if you're starting to let them make some decisions, then you're going to have to let them make all decisions. And
In my past history, it was a 13-year-old with a 27-year-old, and she was pregnant. Yeah. How well did that relationship end up?
so that's definitely not an Eros,
No.
or at least it's a deeply flawed Eros,
Yeah.
deeply sinful, sinfully corrupt
Yeah.
one. So yeah, it's so one of the things he brings up in later in the chapter, Lewis brings up later in the chapter, is talking about how the husband being head of the home, like Christ is head of the church, and how true Eros love, like Christ has for the church, is sacrificial. It's taking the good of the other over your own. And I think it's not unreasonable that a godly portrayal of true Eros love is that you've completely focused on the other person as a person and as the person worth.
One of the things that, because I watch a lot of Asian drama, one of the things that always struck me is that why is it so that you don't want to protect me? That's what I see in these dramas, is that when they start to fall in love with each other, the most important thing they want to do is to protect each other. They will do everything in their power to protect each other, even to the point of losing their own life if that's necessary.
Yeah. And that's men for women and women for men.
Yeah.
If you're willing to sacrifice for the other person. And again, this can be misused in an abusive relationship where the one side is completely sacrificial, giving up everything, including who they are, for the other person, and the other person is just taking from them. That's where you get an imbalance and
be careful for the red flag that you may think is protection, but is actually control.
or sacrifice from your side too.
Where they say you can't see your family, they start saying nasty things about your family is just trying to destroy your life.
Well,
and
we
all of a
talked
sudden
about
you're
this in
isolated.
Storge, where having a good relationship, you actually desire for your spouse to have
Other
friendships, love
interests.
outside of your own.
Yep.
How that helps them to become a full person.
Yeah.
A more three-dimensional person with the influence of others in their lives than if you close them off.
Right, exactly.
So, yes, David?
The unconditional.
What about the unconditional component? There's that component too.
And that's
Because
the next
this
one we're going to talk
also,
about
Christ also demonstrated an
agape?
unconditional
Yeah,
amount of love.
in the next podcast. But it does apply here too.
Ask any parent.
Given your situation where you just represented a wife or a husband and it's a one-sided relationship, how does the unconditional component come into play? Because you can't have, then if Eros contains that unconditional component, and then you say, oh, it's okay for the, say,
There's
wife
a
or
way
husband
to unconditionally
back
love
off or
a
leave, then it
person
contradicts the unconditional
and yet
component.
not stay in an abusive situation. There's Eros love, there's Storge love, there's Philia, and there's agape. And you can still have agape, unconditional God love for people, but not have to experience the Eros love.
God unconditionally loves us, but he still is a God of justice. So it's an important component to love that you do not allow injustice or abuse, because that is against love completely.
So yeah, we can definitely
Good. Wait.
There you go. That's what I was hoping you would go into. That's what I was hoping you'd go into. Because you guys were talking about this, but
Yes.
you weren't
Yeah.
touching on specific. Because there's almost a separation between, there's like a difference, sorry. There's almost like a difference between unconditional
Exactly.
love in Eros than there is in the next one we're going to discuss next week.
Yes.
So then we have to define what is unconditional, like what.
And I think
do we
that's
mean
a
by
misunderstanding
in
that
this
people have
context,
regarding unconditional
context of
love,
Eros love, and then
is that
we can
it's
discuss the
unconditional,
context.
but it doesn't mean that justice isn't a part of it.
No. And it doesn't mean that Eros love is very specific. Like not everybody will experience it, or they'll not experience it the entirety of their lives.
Mhm.
It's very specific to like relationships, like to romantic relationship. So you could go your whole life and never experience that one, or you could find someone, marry them, and then they pass away or whatever. So it's not requirement for life or love to experience it in this manner.
It's not a part of having to, oh, that's it. My life is over. I cannot live anymore because I have not experienced Eros love. I must experience every single. No, you don't have to experience every single solitary
love, because the love of agape, which we, like David talked about, and we'll bring up next week, will encompass it all and is worth everything.
Yeah.
And with Eros love, it can be wonderful and it can be fulfilling. And if in the correct context, God will bless it. And you can be as much of a benefit and a positive influence in your spouse's life as they can in yours. But when it comes to things like abuse, or when a relationship even fails, like if you're dating and you think you're in love and then you find out maybe it's not, and you break off the relationship, there's a way to still love the other person without having to be with them in the Eros way. And that's why it's important to understand there's so many people that will just be like, you just stay in the relationship.
No.
And the thing is, it's not always what God wants you to do.
No. And it's not always a healthy choice, especially if it's something that's eroding your own, where you are becoming less and less.
I had ChatGPT create a synopsis of the chapter on Eros, just so that I had a quick reference. I like what it said. Although not explicitly addressed in relation to singleness, the insights from Lewis's chapter on Eros provide valuable perspectives for single individuals. It highlights the importance of recognizing the depth and sanctity of romantic love, preparing for it thoughtfully, and understanding its place within the broader spectrum of human relationships and divine love.
Wow, that's nice.
And I really like how it put it. And it was just like, what I think too is like, when you're single or you've had bad experiences, you have a tendency to downplay Eros love because you don't avoid it. But there's this whole thing like, it doesn't matter. Why do you make such a big deal about it? We make way too big a deal about this. And yeah, in a sense, I think society does, but we shouldn't. We should be careful about disparaging it, because it is a love that God has designed and created for humans to experience. So it can be a good love,
because it's a depiction of Christ and the church.
Yeah, it's a symbolic love. And so it's definitely something that we should be embracing as a completely wonderful and joyous thing to celebrate. So with Valentine's Day coming up, let's celebrate the fact that this love is out there.
Yep.
Just because we don't have it immediate, like in our lives, maybe in this moment, doesn't mean it's not worth celebrating.
Absolutely.
And if we have it one day of the year where we remember that, like, that God created this romantic love, that it's given to us in a picture between Christ and the church. If you're a Christian, you do have access to this love. And it's through Christ, the bridegroom, who we're waiting for. Just read Song of Solomon. Just read it to yourselves.
Coming up.
It can be blush-worthy. But you actually, and that was just most of the Song of Solomon, it's a lot of expectation.
Yes.
Like they're waiting for each other, that excitement and how they take pleasure in one another.
It's about the two of them, not me plus this person, that person, this person.
Yeah, or even like it's all about what I'm going to get out of this. They just can't get enough of each other. And it's like almost embarrassing. But I mean, it's good, but it's also somewhat embarrassing. You feel like you're reading some love letters. But yeah, like if Christ has shown us that he sacrificed everything, he came down to earth, became a human, he put off the glory of heaven to come down to earth, and to not just come and hang out, he sacrificed everything so that for the love of his bride. If you want to celebrate something on Valentine's Day, celebrate Christ's your bridegroom.
Yeah.
Even if you're a man, you're part of the church, and that's taken on as a feminine bride. This Eros, this love is still available.
It's how Pastor Justin portrays the love of God. You can see in him, God is everything to him. He loves his wife. He loves his children, obviously. God. And you can see it in the way he talks about that unsurmountable love that Christ has for us and his sacrifice. And the way he talks about it, you just make me want to love him more, don't you?
And so celebrate the fact that God created this love. Celebrate those around you who have been able to experience this love. If you're sitting there going, woe is me, then you're looking at love from a gratification perspective. Maybe it's time to look at your hearts, because it was for me for a lot of years. And now I go to Valentine's Day and I'm like, oh, I'm not doing anything because I don't have anybody, or I'm going to avoid all things, or I'm not going to talk about it. I'll talk about it.
Yep.
I'll be like, hey, you went to Valentine's dinner with your boyfriend, your husband, your wife, whatever. Great.
Oh, look, chocolate.
Day after Valentine's Day, chocolate.
It's all cheap.
Or cinnamon hearts. It doesn't cheap.
Cinnamon.
But yeah, it's a heart thing for a lot of years to be like, oh, I don't have someone. It's another year and a half. That's the wrong attitude. But if you're going in for Eros love from that attitude, it's going to be wrong.
Yeah, you might as well grab the pop and chips because you're going to have yourself your own
Pity party. Yes, with the tiny little violins.
Yeah. And because I did that for a lot of years too. Mine was more like, nobody's ever going to love me. I'm not worth it. I'm just going to be alone for the rest of my life. Oh, woe is me. And where's the pop and chips?
Gonna have the ice cream sitting in the no one loves me. That's definitely
self garden and eat some worms.
This is definitely self.
Yeah,
like
it's all
you're
about
all about self gratification, and you're looking for the other person to fix you or to give you something, and that is
to
not
fulfill an emptiness you feel like you have in your life.
Yeah, because you don't get to experience this specific type of love on this specific day. Instead of trying to pretend that Valentine's Day didn't happen or isn't happening, or trying to be super happy on the outside but depressed on the inside, then I think you need to maybe look at your heart, because this can be an exciting day to just embrace the fact that this love is there and that Christ showed this love to us. And if we want to learn anything, take Valentine's Day and make it a day to learn how to show this love. Because even if we don't feel the specific Eros love to another person, like I don't find a husband again, like if you learn to be sacrificial in your love to others, and you learn to give of yourself and to see other individuals as themselves, that's a win in my books. That's my advice coming up to Valentine's Day as a single person. I definitely don't have negative feelings about romantic love, although sometimes I have a little barfy feelings when I see all of the trailers for these, because they go overboard, but partly because I feel like we're recycling the same message to people and it's causing more harm than good, because we're saying like this is the be all and end all of love and life. So this is just one of 4 loves. And
so if this is only one of 4, then there's 3 others if you don't get this one
specifically in this specific manner,
right?
Because we can develop it and understand that going into a relationship is serious. It's not just about what I can get out of it. It's what are you willing to give to the other person?
Yeah.
And so,
yeah. And that's something a lot of people don't think about, because right now it's just like, oh, my feelings.
Yeah. That high of emotion is not the Eros love. It's just features within it.
Yeah.
It's one of the marks of it. It's just if you had a list of things that were in the definition, that would be one of them. Yeah. So that's our podcast on Eros. And next week we can talk about agape, the final of the 4 loves. I hope
we'll be able to talk ad nauseum on this.
Yeah, maybe like a 3-5 parter. No, we'll make it one. Try not to do too many 2-parters.
Not because we don't love God a lot.
No, just we don't want to bore you.
No.
You want to make it a 5-parter? I can do that.
Yeah,
just keep talking to all the nuances of God and His love.
It's
an never-ending love.
I went to a conference where it says we probably know about 1% of what God is really like. And can you imagine if we knew more?
That's why He only gave us a limited amount of information.
Yep.
We're talking about like Israel and Moses going up the mountain, like the people that couldn't deal with it. Like we can't even.
Nope.
And
because it's just too scary.
Yeah, it's just too much. Anyway.
So
if you have any Valentine stories or Eros stories or not Eros stories or anything you'd like to talk to us about, just give us a shout. We're on Facebook, Instagram, X. If you want to go by the email, it's route77ministries@gmail.com. That's route77ministries@gmail.com.
Eventually we will have our website link in our podcast.
Yes, it's coming this month. That put on my list of to-dos. I have lots of time at the end of this month. We shall see you here next time. Have a good day.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for staying with us.
just like that, our heartfelt journey through the world of Eros and beyond comes to a close. As we look forward to bringing our conversations to new platforms and welcoming more voices into our fold, let's not forget the true meaning of Valentine's Day, a celebration of love guided by the selfless example of Christ's love for us. Whether you find yourself enveloped in the arms of Eros or basking in the glow of agape, remember love in its purest form is about giving, not just receiving. Thank you for joining us on this journey, for your love, support, and the rich conversations that await us. Until next time, keep loving, keep questioning, and live your single life to its fullest.